Because I'm like, no, I'm that mom that is involved, that did everything right, that tried everything, tried everything I could possibly do to make my children feel and understand emotion and connect. And still, there is that lack. And she said it's the entire generation that's labeled that way, that in spite of them having all of this, we assume that they're okay, but they are the loneliest generation.
Yeah, and as parents, it's a challenge to parent nowadays because we're sort of the ones that lived both worlds. We had the time pre-social media, pre-check ticked. Every box ticked from a knowledge perspective, from a skill perspective, and yet they weren't succeeding in the ways that some
people are auditory learners, some people are kinesthetic learners, some people are visual learners. How do we make sure we integrate every aspect of training into our staff so that everybody can be on a healthy platform?
We are small children, our small children, our inner children are still inside our bodies and in our hearts, and whatever wounds that we continue to carry that we haven't dealt with continue to live through our every single day experiences.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Pivot Mode. This is not a simple podcast. It's more so of a love letter to Gen Z and the generations beyond, full of wisdom, heart, love, and support. Think of it as a love letter that you always needed, but didn't know you needed. So here we go. As I always start my podcast with a quote that's poignant and that's relevant to the topic that we discuss, I came across a specific quote that resonated, in that people will forget what you said, how you said it, but they would never forget how you made them feel. So in that spirit, leadership also revolves around connection more so than a position. So our message today is for anybody dealing and involved with the younger generations, Gen Z and beyond, to understand how important it is to establish connection as opposed to emphasizing on the position that you play. There couldn't be a better person to tackle this conversation with other than my guest today. I am so honored that she's here to delve into this topic and to put life into it, to change the lingo, to have these discussions that are normally taboo or hidden. And today we're going to shed some light on it. Before I even say her name, I want to back it up with the massive amount of qualification and credentials that come along with her. And to be sure that I nail every single one, I made some notes. 15 years as a marketing profession. 40 multi-industry brands have been under her belt. She's a certified emotional intelligence and NLP coach, dedicated to unraveling the intricacies of what makes us human. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest today, Nancy Habashi.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction, Valerie. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know, stemming from our conversations previous to coming onto the show, we just gravitated towards each other because of our passion.
Yes.
And our devotion to shedding some lights on certain topics, making sure that these conversations are held, they are supported, they are backed up by credentials, knowledge, support, resources, research. And it was just such an honor when you accepted to come on. I literally danced in my apartment. It was such an honor once you did agree. Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Goodness, you did such a good job introducing me already. But yes, I am a certified emotional intelligence coach. But prior to that, I've been in marketing and branding for it says 15 years. It's been more than that now. I've written it a long time ago, believe it or not. And when I entered the world of emotional intelligence and NLP, I honestly thought I was changing career paths. But the more that I dove into what it all meant, I realized that those two worlds were actually rooted in the very same things. And that everything I learned about emotional intelligence and about programming language was an intricate part of what I do in branding and personal branding. And so my two worlds really fused into one. And under my banner in Light Consulting, that's basically what we do, is that we infuse emotional intelligence into brand strategies, and we hope to also nurture them within their leaders and within people.
Oh, that's perfect. And in my intro, that's why I really emphasized on how important it is for people to understand the words that come out of your mouth and how anchored they are when they do come out, and that they are delivered, and the importance that is in relationship building.
Yes.
Because I, on the other side, do more so relational intelligence.
Okay.
So I noticed that the two coincide as well.
Okay.
Because I have a background in healthcare, and I did end of life. So to hear on hospice beds these stories of just, the missing parts of relationships that they wish that they had developed. They wish that they had enough reliance or self-knowledge to live a fulfilled life.
Yes.
And by then it was too late. Hence why I said, no. We have to do better for the generations to come. And
I love that mission. Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. And thank you for being on the journey with me.
Let's have this conversation. It is important.
Absolutely. So please explain to our viewers your view on emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence for me came into my life, I think, mostly when I became a mom. So I have 2 teenage boys now, but when they first came into my world, I think I was still very immature and not quite in connection or understanding who I was as a person. They came to be a reflection for me. They came to be a real mirror for me. And they awakened in me a different layer of understanding of who I am. I remember looking at both of them and thinking, my goodness, how could 2 people who came from the same 2 parents be so different? And I got extremely curious about that. I could see that one child was super compassionate, super empathetic, and the other one felt like he almost didn't have that. And then I started to understand how it can be communicated in different ways. And then as I entered the world of developing my career in the corporate environment, I started to see certain people rise quickly and have this ability to influence and connect, and other people who just couldn't. And I, again, wondered, what is the difference? This individual seemed to have every check ticked, every box ticked from a knowledge perspective, from a skill perspective, and yet they weren't succeeding in the ways that some other less educated individuals were. And so I got curious, and emotional intelligence was the root. And I became just obsessed with the topic, learning everything I possibly could and desiring to be able to understand how me as such an intense individual could find a way to manage this explosion happening in my mind and my body. Years later, I became an emotional intelligence coach, and here we are today.
Wow. So would you say you actually use your experience as an anchor to navigate through learning about this approach?
I think you have to. I don't see how else people can learn, or people can literally change knowledge into wisdom. The only way to do that is the alchemy of bringing it into your life and integrating it into your personal day-to-day experiences. People say to me, well, are you emotionally intelligent? You're a coach. Are you emotionally intelligent? Not yet. Not every day. It is a journey. It is a process. And every single time a new experience comes into my life that is there to shock me, awaken me, make me realize there's a different layer to the human experience, I'm learning things all over again. But it is and has become my operating system. It has become the thing I fall back on, the yardstick by which I measure success. It's actually everything for me now.
Oh, that's so good to hear. When we align that with leadership, because that's where I think the gap exists between leaders really, really building those connections and understanding their employees and understanding that that little girl and that little boy that's in that person still exists. And that their method of learning, their method of delivering service, their method of coexisting is different. And we can't just generalize every employee. They go through the onboarding process. Everybody goes through the same exact training, not realizing that some people are auditory learners, some people are kinesthetic learners, some people are visual learners. How do we make sure we integrate every aspect of training into our staff so that everybody can be on a healthy platform?
Well, I'm impressed. You're using big words, and I'm like kinesthetic, and yes, ma'am. All of those things exist, and I'm so glad. Those are, by the way, I don't know if you know this, they're called representation systems in NLP. And when we are coming into a leadership role and we have all of these people coming our way, I know we're adults, but to your point, to your very, very important point, we are small children. You know, our small children, our inner children are still inside our bodies and in our hearts, and whatever wounds that we continue to carry that we haven't dealt with continue to live through our every single day like experiences. And so as a leader, there is a responsibility that you carry to be able to see people as humans, not just as a list of skills, as a CV, as something on paper, but that you're not just going to play the role of here are our goals and objectives and let's get to them and here's how we do it technically speaking. You're dealing with the individual that every single time you bring that person to the table, you have the ability to channel and pull out more magic out of that person if you know how to be self and socially aware and use that emotional intelligence to your benefit. If we're able to give people the permission to be themselves and the safe space in a corporate culture that allows them to, one, be themselves, not leave their personal lives at the door, but bring all of themselves to the office, then we're creating safety. And within safety is the permission to fail, the permission to make mistakes. And within that is the space for creativity and innovation. They don't exist without each other.
Yeah, they don't. They don't. And can you imagine the culture of a company if that were to be put in place?
Yeah.
And that's where I think there should be training for leaders. There really should be. Just because you have a title, absolutely, we will send them your way, right? Right? Because in spite of your title, your credentials and all of those acronyms attached to your name, which I know leaders work hard to get.
Yeah, of course.
If you do not attach that with the human side, to me, it nullifies everything. Yeah. It just, because it'll continue to be a revolving door in industries, because that's the complaint of the corporate world with Gen Z. They're not reliable. They drop positions at the drop of a hat. They will quit. It's because they don't feel connected. They don't feel supported. Yeah. They do not feel led. Yeah. You may be a leader, but if you do not lead, in spite of the technical term, right, you're not going to connect with this generation. There's no way. Yeah. My generation swallowed. We were like, listen, we got to pay the bills. We have no choice. This generation is not going to fall for it.
Yeah, they believe in more opportunity and more options. But they're also a generation whose definition of connection has been a little bit disillusioned and confused. And I do believe that in today, more than ever, what I do and what I teach has its space. And by the grace of God, that's why I'm absolutely grateful that that I'm here and that that God's given me these gifts, but truly that today more than ever with AI and with the information, just the sheer amount of information our brains are trying to process on a daily basis, our bodies are trying to evolve at the speed of all of this, but we haven't yet really caught up. And so the definition of connection that the newer generations are trying to understand is a little confused. And they are craving without knowing it deeper connection, deeper meaning. Because there's this surface layer at the moment that just doesn't feel like they've been able to penetrate it in the way that will inspire and motivate them and make them want to follow you or lead. You know, it's missing. And so having a leader in place that understands that sees it, and that is able to kind of speak their language, understand their representation systems or other, and be able to go, okay, you communicate differently than I do, and that's okay. How can I learn to hear you and receive you and vice versa? So we can build something beautiful together, right?
Yeah. That would give them such a sense of belonging. Because just to piggyback off of what you said, the connection for this generation is so construed and just so confusing. And my daughter said something the other day that resonates with me, and I got on the plane and literally teared up thinking about it. And I didn't even know this existed, that they labeled their generation as the lonely generation.
Do they? Oh.
It broke me into pieces. Because I'm like, no, I'm that mom that is involved, that did everything right, that tried everything, tried everything I could possibly do to make my children feel and understand emotion and connect. And still, there is that lack. And she said it's the entire generation that's labeled that way, that in spite of them having all of this, we assume that they're okay, but they are the loneliest generation.
Yeah, and as parents, it's a challenge to parent nowadays because we're sort of the ones that lived both worlds. We had the time pre-social media, pre-all of that, and then we also have fallen into the social media. I don't want to say the trap, but we are in that world. And so, but because we have seen both worlds, we're able to go, okay, I know exactly what it was like before, and I know what it is like now. And now that I've got this generation of children that I'm raising, as parents, we need to be quite mindful about the fact that, oh, well, we think they're good and they're off on their own and they seem fine. And they're so stuck in this world of this digital world that the personal world, that personal touch, the human touch, they need it without even realizing it. And so it really does have to be a deliberate and intentional everyday goal for you to make that happen and create a culture within your home that also fosters safety and connection.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. Now, would you agree that self-awareness is also a big component in needing to understand how to connect? Is having that self-awareness of knowing what exactly is connection? How do you perceive connection to be within yourself? And how can we foster that in this generation? Because they can't find the words to express what they're feeling, what they're lacking, how we as an older generation can connect with them. So how would you define self-awareness for them to understand at that level?
If you're in a noisy space, you're not going to be able to hear. Simple, right? So the amount of information and data that's coming at them every single day is created this noise. And so they're struggling to hear. And so without space, without the separation from the noise, without quiet, without stillness, hard pressed for it to work. It's just not. So you really do have to be the parent or the person that explains to them that they need to shut out the noise because they need to be able to hear themselves. Self-awareness, I can't understand other if I don't understand myself. I can't. I need to be able to, just like I can't love without loving myself. It's the same thing. We can't go out and give what we don't have or we don't give to ourselves. And so it starts with understanding who you are and understanding how you hear your voice. I can't lead a team nor a child if I don't know how to do it for myself. So start with yourself. Make sure you've got practices in place that you believe are sustainable and that work, and then lead by example and create a culture at home where those things are sacred and meaningful and almost ritualistic. Rituals have a way of connecting people together within a home or within a corporate culture. And so I think there's a lot to be said about how actually we receive rituals in our minds neuroscientifically and how it can really impact change. But just to close on the definition of connection, you need to really make a difference for them. You need to show them a difference between the connection that they have with people from afar on a screen versus a connection that is truly at a deeper level. So find a way that makes sense for you and your household, but you need to be able to connect deeply with your children so they see the difference. So as long as you're communicating with them also, I mean, we find our ways to do it their way too, right? We text them. I made myself a Snapchat account. I'm not chatting and snapping with them. And fine, I will do that. But I also have to make a clear difference between our traditions as a family, our values as a family, versus what they're experiencing at a sort of surface layer.
And I commend you on that because it establishes a very nourished balance. And with that, they can also be advocates for themselves in the world.
Yeah.
Right? When they do approach the corporate world, to know exactly how to maneuver through the systems that will align with who they are.
Yes.
Because they have that at home.
Yes. If those rituals are rooted in values, I mean, you're always going to be, both in business, family, whatever it is in life, you're always going to have one leg that's moving in a different direction. Because that's how we grow, we evolve, we need to test things out, we need to try different things. But the other leg is rooted, and it's rooted in your values. It's anchored in your values. So no matter what you decide, no matter what direction you take, it's always rooted and aligned to who you are and what you believe and what you've learned in that first family unit that you started off with. And that's how we avoid in the future things like burnout, things like shame, things like, living a life. Because where does burnout happen? How does burnout happen? It's when we are living a life that is misaligned with our values. Every single day, you are spending your life energy, your life force, doing something that you don't truly believe in, that you don't truly value. So it doesn't feel in flow. It's a resistance energy. And being every day in resistance energy is exhausting, and we burn out.
Oh, no, that was a great way to put, to shed some light on burnout, because people usually affiliated with just fatigue, just the physical fatigue. But to break it down like you did in saying that it's misaligned with your true values, it's like you're impersonating somebody every single day. Yeah. It does become exhausting.
It's a masking mechanism, and it is exhausting.
It truly is. Now, do you think, and I'm sure we're going to agree on this, that the investment in emotional intelligence in corporate training, the culture of a company, is just as important as anything else?
If not more so, to be honest. It's just not happening enough. And I think sometimes, there are corporate cultures that do talk about it. I do feel emotional intelligence has become a normalized topic and is becoming of interest now, especially now with AI and everything else. But I do feel like it's maybe not as deep as it needs to be. Kind of just, we scratch over it a little bit. We don't quite go as deep as we need to be.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And to hear you with your brilliance say that gives it even more value, because this is based on research. This is based on intelligent gurus that are in the field that are saying this is a necessity for companies, a necessity for the culture of companies in order run successful businesses.
Yes.
Right?
It can't just be we ran a course. That's the thing, is it? Like with anything, you can't just invite someone over and you do a workshop for a day and thank you very much. It has to be rooted in your corporate culture. It has to be the way that you hire, the way that you fire, the way that you run your standard operating procedures and everything else. There needs to be this layer of compassion and empathy in everything you do, because businesses are run by human beings, by people. So we need to treat them as such.
And with that comes the weight of trust. There's a heavy weight on trust because employees just do not trust.
Yeah.
Upper level management, middle management, that sense of trust, and I live it every day. I see it, and it because I'm such an emotional person, I pick up on that.
Yeah.
And as much as I try to navigate and to set up the opposite of what, my colleagues feel, and just to build that sense of community, if I cannot infiltrate their lack of trust, with the suits, there's nothing left to do because it's ingrained. So in speaking of trust, how does trust align with emotional intelligence, and how do they coexist?
Yeah, it's such a fundamental component, trust, and I think that I agree with you that trust is a challenge in this region quite a bit, because we are a multicultural space by which trust is earned, differently, or trust potentially has been eroded in your experience. And then you bring that experience into one community, and the way that we communicate becomes a challenge. And so trust for me comes, first of all, it's earned. It takes time. It's not going to be a flip of a switch, as we all know. If someone's ever broken your trust, you know that it's not something that they can get back on a drop of a hat. And that often will affect your future experience. And so to be able to go back out in the world and go, okay, I'm not threatened, I'm okay. First, you need to find that safety within yourself. You need to be able to believe that no matter what happens on the outside world, there are certain things that will hold you steady. And so that trust within yourself, because it's a projection also, right? There's a projection that I can't trust anyone. Well, go back inside. Is it because you don't trust yourself? Ask that question first. And if it's that, okay, well then it becomes some work that you got to do first within. But then after that, remember that there's different ways to communicate in different cultures. That's something, as a Canadian coming here to Dubai, I was very direct at the beginning. I didn't even know it was called direct. I was just being myself, frankly. The culture and the environment I was brought up in was simple. You communicate what you're thinking.
That was it. From up
that
north.
was it.
That's it.
But I'm also of an Egyptian culture and brought up by immigrant parents. And then coming here, I realized that in other cultures, things like diplomacy, things like ensuring that you don't offend anyone take priority over clear communication. So you then have to navigate, and you have to find ways. Every time you've got a new audience in front of you, you need to find ways to be able to learn how to develop trust with that individual, because it's not going to be the same for everybody in front of you. So the agility, the ability to be flexible with your emotional intelligence is part of emotional intelligence. You can't put people all in a box, right? And so there's that. But I really do believe, and it's not just because I'm Canadian, that clear is kind. Clear is respect. And when we are clear in our communication, we don't leave room for ambiguity. We don't leave guessing and guesswork. So people know, here is the role I've invited you to come and fulfill. This is what I expect from you. Exactly like this. If there's anything about this that's not clear, or you're not sure about, I'm here. You can ask all your questions. And if it's clear now, but it's not clear in 2 weeks, Let's talk again. But clarity is a form of respect. And that's how trust can be built. Because when we're communicating clearly, we're not guessing. And when we're creating space for people to be themselves and honest, like what we were talking about earlier, that permission to be your whole self, then no one's coming in feeling like, okay, there's always a threat. There's always a risk of judgment. No, there's acceptance. We create a space where acceptance is there and where people can be themselves.
And authentically be themselves.
Yes, authentically.
And with that, bring their natural talents to the table.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. If trust is not there, I feel that people hold back. So you have yet to understand the amount of qualifications that this person can bring to the table because there isn't that sense of
They're
trust
still masking.
and they're still masking.
Yeah.
And it's so ironic. Yesterday we had an episode on imposter syndrome, and it hit it on the mark. So to come full circle and see how that aligns with emotional intelligence is brilliant. So thank you for that. Thank you so much. I had a specific question that really, really spoke to me in preparing for our conversation today, and how it is, what are the skills that people can use to master their emotions? Because that's another thing, to know what it's called. Emotional intelligence. We know it. Thank goodness it's coming to the forefront more often now. But what are the skills? What are the tactics? What are the mechanisms that I need to put in place in order for me to know how to manage them?
It's a great question. I would say that as a starting point, you need to be open-minded. You need to be absolutely open-minded to be ready to face your true self in the mirror. Until you're ready to receive the truth and be honest with yourself about some of the challenges that you deal with every day, then you will be stuck. And that process is virtually impossible. So you start by being open. Then it's about observation. You start to watch yourself every day. What are the things that trigger me? One of the first exercises that I do with any of my clients on a personal one-to-one level is notice what you notice. So you go out every single day and pinpoint the thing that just tugged at you, the thing that made that emotion, so movement within your body, turn into some kind of a behavior. Because that's actually the root of the word emotion. It's movement that then moves out of the body. And so what is it that triggered you? Did that trigger last 5 minutes? Or have you been thinking about it all day? So start to dive deeper. And one of the things you need to do, don't just say, well, this is the reason. Ask that question 7 times. What's the reason that made me react like that? Well, what does that actually mean? What's important about that for me? Until you come down to the value. Because going back to what we said earlier, the values are the drivers. So there is something that rubbed against your value and you feel threatened by it. And so you want to be able to respond. So notice all those things. So until you're able to figure that out, that's self-awareness. That's layer 1. Because once you do that, then you can start to go out in the world and apply that to other people and be like, okay, that person is reacting that way, potentially because you can make your assumptions. You can also ask. The simplest thing you can do is, what's going on? What's the reason why you feel that way? What are you feeling right now? What's important for you there? Why, and you have that conversation with people. How often do we just ask rather than assume? How often do we take pause? Do we stop and go, okay? Because in emotional intelligence, the space that we create between that stimulus that comes our way and our reaction is where that power and that freedom lies. So if I can make a space bigger, so stimulus, I go, before I judge, before I shame, before I blame, I'm asking questions. Questions are, because biggest, most important skill in emotional intelligence is curiosity. If you can be curious, then you can always lead with a question and not a judgment. That's how I'm going to create a safe space for that person in front of me. If I'm going to judge, and we do, I'm not asking anybody to shame themselves for judging. It's natural. We have to judge the world around us to survive. But with that extra layer of awakening that you now have, you're going, okay, there's a reason behind every behavior. Every behavior. Nobody's out there just to be mean. There's something else going on behind there. So I want to ask, I want to be curious. I want to pause. I want to take accountability because everything is a two-way street. If you go out in the world and you believe the world around you is a manifestation of your own existence and being, you hold yourself responsible. I hold myself responsible for bad things that happen in the whole world. Not to shame myself, not to bring myself down in darkness, but to be able to go, what can I do in this body, in this mind, in this home to make that bad thing end, to make it stop? What can I do? Because can you imagine, Valerie, every single one of us woke up with the mindset of agency and belief that I'm accountable, I'm responsible. Will I go out going, oh, this guy and all that girl and all, blaming everyone? Or will I say, what can I do and take an action?
And it resonates what you say, because that's part of the human experience, to put yourself in those positions of thinking outside of yourself and putting yourself in people's shoes and empathizing and realizing the world revolves around all of us, not just you, so that connections and relationships can thrive. In listening to what you said, though, something triggered, because I think
Good.
I love interviews like this because it allows me to, one, self-reflect during the interview. So my mind, as much as I'm paying attention to you, and I remember every single thing, but my mind is also, okay, Valerie, how are you going to implement this in your life? How are you going to make yourself better in this position? How are you going to improve in these areas? So I thank you for that.
Oh,
really
you're so welcome. I'm learning as I'm talking too. Sometimes,
That's so good.
Sometimes
exactly.
God starts speaking.
Yeah, it clicks. You're like, oh, okay, that's a good one. But I have a really, really good question for you in kind of dissecting everything that you just said. The difference between value and pride. Because, like you said, the value that's established at home, and this is culturally, and this is throughout. My family's from the Caribbean. I see it, being that we're so multi-diverse here as well. The sense of pride that we feel stems from the values that we got at home, which sometimes handicaps us. And in your experience, how can we, with those rooted values, because they're strong, which then builds the pride that's even stronger, soften ourselves enough to look outside and say, okay, yes, I'm going to look at where that person's attitude came from, where that person's reflection came from, and not take it personally, and still find a way to navigate and foster a relationship, putting aside pride, value, and everything that's rooted in us naturally.
Yeah.
That was heavy.
Pride is almost like that when you're tipped over from proud to pride, it's kind of like ego came into that. I feel like if you go out into the world believing that everyone is doing the best with what they have, then you're not taking things as an offense or a threat or an insult to what you belong to or believe in, because you believe they belong to something too. It's simply an empathetic mindset to say, if I have this strong sense of belonging that came from my home, how grateful am I for that? I hope everybody has something like that. He must have it too, because we don't agree. But that's part of the richness and the diversity of the world. And if I truly appreciate my viewpoint and my strength in it, I must somewhere in my mind and body believe that someone else has the right to that as well. And in fact, I can create a stronger brain and more neuroplasticity for myself if I dare to allow myself to understand that other person's thought process or experience. I can actually strengthen myself because someone else out there is different. How boring would this world be if we were all the same? You wouldn't belong, by the way, because there is no black without white, right? There is no darkness without light. So if I belong to someone, to something, to a belief, to whatever, it's because the opposite exists. That's the only reason I have it. So you thank the opposite, because otherwise you wouldn't have what you have.
No, that's such a great way to put it, because to align the way you align pride with ego is so important for people to realize. If you could take yourself out of the equation and take your pride and put it aside, don't completely negate it, don't completely get rid of it, because pride is what keeps us going, right? Yeah. However, if you could extract that from situations as they come along, that to me takes strength. That takes maturity. That takes self-awareness, like we said. So it's good to point it out the way that you did.
I also think, as you're saying, that pride is, I think that there's, because you pointed on something, and it's service. You know, what is the reason why you're so proud of belonging to this? Is it just that sense of belonging? Is it something that you are able to leverage to contribute somehow? And so and by the way, when we detach ourselves from that thing that we're either good at or whatever it is, there's so much less pressure. There's so much less pressure. If I come to you today and I'm like, I'm an emotional intelligence coach and I'm an NLP and I'm a brand strategist, how much more pressure do I have to make sure that I prove to you today that I'm awesome? Versus if I'm just here to serve you with love, I just want to give you whatever little gift I might be able to give you today. That's what I'm here to do. So it's no longer about me. It's about the love I want to give you. And so it's that way that we can go out into the world, that beautiful thing we so strongly belong to with pride. Make sure you don't taint it with the darkness of ego and fear and reasons. What's the reason? Ask yourself, what's the reason? Yeah.
And to go back to trust, the generations behind us do not believe that this is true, that somebody would want to serve. Like, I had students literally ask me at the end of the year, I have a little powwow with them. We sit in a circle. I'm in the middle. I say, I want to be a better teacher than I was this year, every year. So let me know what I could have done better, how I can improve. I do this teachers are baffled that I do this because it's a lot to take on. But I really enjoy it. And at the very beginning, they would tap each other. They're like, don't fall for this. We are not opening up. So I had to build trust. And eventually they did open, and they said that was the first thing. They said, we couldn't believe that you cared for real, that you would stop by before an exam to wish us luck, to give us a little pointer that you know that we needed. We did not believe it. We would have conversations and say, is she real? Like, is she like,
isn't
what
that
does
sad?
she mean? It broke my heart.
We need more of that, and we need more Valeries in the world.
Listen, I'm trying. And sometimes I would break cultural, barriers, because I love you or baby girl comes out of my mouth naturally. I'm like, listen, you're my baby girls. I'm your classroom mommy. And towards the end, they really felt it, but I had to really win them over because they didn't believe that somebody could care that much, love that much, authentically be there for them that much. I promise you donuts, you're getting donuts on Monday. I would get in trouble because it's a little bit, it's sugar, but it's half a donut. They did well, right? So they didn't believe that somebody could care that much.
It's a fleeting culture now. Like everything is so surface. Everything is so not everything, but I don't like using universal words.
Yeah.
They're confused because they see things in and out, the lifespan of a friendship or of a connection, or it's going to take more work for us today to build that trust and to give them that assurance that they're okay and they're safe and the threats are not everything. That I literally tell my kids that I'm not your enemy. Not everything is threatening you or trying to kill you, because that is what it feels like when your life can be displayed. If you make a mistake, someone can pull up a camera, record it, and broadcast it at a mass level. Can you imagine being a teenager today? I can't. I think back at some of the things I did and I'm like, oh my God, imagine that was caught on camera and broadcast.
Yep.
So yes, they feel more threatened than we ever did, because it's too easy now and things are just, so you're doing good. Thank you for doing that. And let's continue, please, as adults, to create safe spaces for students, for children.
Yeah, and that's the mission of Pivot Mode, and that's why I'm so grateful to have brilliant minds like you to come and let's have these conversations.
Please, let's have them a lot.
Let's have them a lot, because just because they have chronological age on paper, my daughter's 24. She's still my baby.
100%.
She still needs me. And I have to pick up on those moments. Sometimes she doesn't. Her best friend is getting married soon. Oh my goodness, she doesn't need me now. They're doing bridal stuff. But there are times that she's at home alone, and it just so happens that I call at the perfect time and spills. And I'm so grateful that I'm there, because I can't assume that at 24, she's got it. We gave her everything she needed.
I still need my mom. I still need my dad.
Thank you.
And her brain may not be completely developed yet, by the way.
Absolutely
it closes
not.
the loop at 26.
Exactly.
So she still needs that.
They still need us, right?
Absolutely.
They still need us. So it's good to hear gurus in the industry say that, so that the viewers can hear this. I hope parents really gravitate towards the podcast as well, because yes, it's our message to Gen Z, but if the parents could catch the message as well, I think it would really resonate. It would really resonate.
I sure hope so.
I do too. Now, quick question. Would you agree that, and for them to understand, on a leadership angle, that one, we know leadership is earned, right? They have to earn and it's not just title, but the respect and the admiration of being a leader. But also that to convince leaders that empathy is not a weakness, because that's where also I noticed that there's a gap.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for leaders to portray themselves as still being empathetic and yet still having that presence as a leader?
I don't know why people think they sit on two sides of a spectrum, like influence or and empathy. For me, they're actually, one affects the other quite literally. Empathy is the antidote to shame. And so many of us are coming into our roles and responsibilities with things like imposter syndrome that you were referring to earlier, and with other wounds and challenges and am I good enough feelings, right? And so when you create a space where empathy is part of your corporate culture, you're once again allowing people to know that they can make mistakes, that they can be understood, that this is a safe place, because they will be able to then create and innovate and be inspired by you in a way that's not like, oh, here's another person that's in my shame web. Here's another toxic individual that's going to be there constantly pointing the finger and blaming me for everything that goes wrong. It's a space now where if I make a mistake, I can quickly, because it's going to help the resilience. I can quickly pick myself up again because I know that I'm going to be okay. I know that if I make the mistake, I can fix it and move forward.
I love the way you put that it builds resilience, because it's important for them to foster that as well,
Yeah.
to be resilient, that it's not the end of the world. You have the inner power to resurface from a situation. And I think that this generation really, really needs to hone in on that belief.
Yeah, because then it's that quiet quitting that we keep talking that they're talking about now. People are literally, they're going in and out of their jobs just to get that paycheck at the end, but they are not led by anything. They don't feel that, they're not seeing that vision that leader is seeing because they don't feel safe.
No, it's the lack of fulfillment. There's no fulfillment.
Yeah.
And when they remove themselves from a position, and within 2 weeks, that's why the quiet quitting is happening even quicker now.
Yeah.
2 weeks. And it didn't exist back in my days for sure. So we have to ask the question, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this happening? What can we do to make it better? And to me, like we said, conversations like this hopefully will enlighten the corporate world, leaders, to see, okay, how can we actively play a role in making sure that this generation feels safe and can trust us, that we are here to empower them.
Yeah, make the effort to understand, make the effort to ask the questions. When you're sitting down with students and you're saying to them, what can I do better? How can I help you? Does that make you less of a leader, less influential, soft? No, it shows them that you can be trusted. And trust, as we had said earlier, is the root of a great relationship of any kind.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. As this comes to an end, which I'm so upset that it is, I'm literally hurt because this was amazing.
Thank you,
It was
Valerie.
so enlightening. It was so, first of all, authentic and just organic, because we share the same passion, the same mission, and we're hopeful. We're hopeful.
I am
this
hopeful.
I
I
am
still
too.
believe in the humans.
And
I still believe in the good of humans.
Me too. So we are in this together.
Yes.
We're in this together. I have a tradition with the podcast where we close out, where I'm gonna shoot some words at you.
Okay.
Oh yes. Get ready.
Okay.
And you have the opportunity to say one word that comes to mind.
Okay.
With that. Motherhood.
Mirror.
That's a good one. Personal growth.
Critical.
Values.
Source.
Stress.
Killer.
Self-reflection.
Important.
You nailed it, because I tried to
Necessary. I want to say necessary, not important. Necessary.
Okay, perfect. That is what we're putting on. But thank you again so much,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
It was an honor. It was an honor.
I really had a great time chatting with you.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And please, this is just the beginning. I'd say to all my guests that I resonate with, I say, you're stuck with me.
Happy to be.
Absolutely. Right? This is just the beginning of a relationship. And as we said, just the beginning of our conversations.
Yes.
So please expect to come a little bit more, because as I hit the topics, I'm going to be like, Nancy's a good one for this one. We're bringing her back in.
I'll be here for you.
I will be honored. I will be honored.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you again. And as always, I promised you one of the best shows. Nancy really, really incorporated everything I wanted to relay to the audience today. I hope you took snippets of it and that you take that with you on your daily endeavors, and that it resonates in some form. As we always close out, and I struggle with this, so please bear with me, because I'm human. We had this conversation, I'm human. So subscribe, like, and comment, right? Bam, I'm getting it, people, I'm getting it. But until next time, thank you for watching.